All right, in my opinion, this is one of the most powerful, consistently applicable, and easy indicators anyone in the crypto market could ever use. And I'm going to show you what that is in this video. And one rare signal is about to flash for the first time in a long time, which may be the key to the perfect high probability entry before the whole market soars to new highs. And this is further confirmed by the fact that one specific indicator, which is almost like a cheat sheet to the markets, has been extremely accurate in predicting cycle tops and bottoms and has yet to say we are actually done with any bull market just yet. Now, Raoul Pal, a former institutional macro investor and CEO of Real Vision, agrees and paints the picture clearly in his latest speech. Because while Bitcoin continues to gain in dominance against most cryptos, and we're talking at least 95% of all cryptos in markets breaking out for new daily highs, there will be some unique opportunities to profit tremendously if you're paying attention. And this rare signal happens so few times, but creates such a consistently easy signal to follow. Now, lucky for XRP holders, it's performed far better than virtually all other major market cap cryptos of at least $10 billion or more. In the pumps, it's rallied way harder. And even in the dumps, it's held its support ranges quite well to the tune of that $2.05 range. This is a signal of strong diamond hands and dip buyers. But this is where things get interesting, because this one specific chart is showing that XRP could potentially lose another 40% against Bitcoin in the coming weeks and months. And if that happens, how would you approach this scenario and prepare? When would be the best time to invest? Well, stay tuned, because we'll be diving into these charts, these key indicators, and revealing when all of this will likely go down. And as always, if you're feeling blessed and bullish, comment 777. And if you're going to be the wealthiest person in your family tree, smash the subscribe button. Hello, bull runners, and welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, my name is Paul, and you can find me on Twitter or X at PauliDeFi, PauliDeFi. My Twitter profile photo will look something like this. Now, before we begin the video and dive into these key indicators and metrics, which are actually leading me to want to be very, very bullish very soon, and we'll uncover when we should start to think about deploying some capital or where some good ranges will be, head on over to the Bull Runners HQ Twitter profile and make sure that you actually enter our $100 worth of XRP giveaway. We actually give this away every single Sunday through our daily email newsletter. So if you're a winner, this is where you'll find it. And in order to enter, all you have to do is come to the pinned post, like the post, comment XRP below, and then sign up for a Blowfin account using our link, where there are bonuses of up to $5,000 in a futures bonus. So this is actually huge. In other words, if you deposit 50K, you get an extra $5,000 in that futures account to go ahead and trade. And then in order to know whether or not you're actually going to win on Sunday, or whether you're one of our winners every single Sunday, head on over to bullrunners.com/altcoin secrets. And again, you'll find that link in the description or bio down below. And this is where you're going to unlock 23 secrets to becoming a crypto millionaire. You'll get that ebook directly to your inbox. But even if you don't want to read it, this is where we're going to be announcing our winners every single week. So if you want a chance to win $100 worth of XRP, go ahead and do that. Now, I know we have a lot of XRP investors on this channel. Many of you might not like or hold Bitcoin. However, it's important to pay attention to Bitcoin. And I say this over and over and over again, because here's the reality. I have to get down with the reality. I can't tell the market to do what I want it to do. The market's going to do what it wants to do. And I simply have to do a good job of being on the right side of the market. In other words, if in November you were buying and holding Bitcoin before the breakout on November 5th and 6th, then you would be in a really good place, because that is what the market wanted to do. The market chose XRP to pump really hard all the way into January of this year. In other words, no Bitcoin investor could argue against XRP. Well, as things stand right now, Bitcoin is actually gaining in dominance across the board on everything and is by far the largest crypto in the world, and it's not even close. So that said, whatever Bitcoin does, the rest of the crypto market's going to follow because it's kind of like the mothership, right? Now you have some bigger players on this ship. You also have a lot of small players that are literally nobodies. But at the end of the day, it's important to pay attention to Bitcoin. And here we have a video that I thought was really cool. It's actually an ad directly from Coinbase that kind of states their business model. And again, it's important to remember that as Coinbase is doing a lot of marketing and branding and building and advertising and onboarding a bunch of new users or normies, then guess what? A lot of that money and capital is going to find its way not just into Bitcoin, but into everything else and XRP. So let's watch this video really quickly.
If a Bitcoin was the size of a quarter, all 21 million of them would fit inside a single shipping container. But to fit the dollars the Fed prints on average every day, you'd need 72 shipping containers. Each year, you'd need 26,280 containers. And to fit what they've printed in the last decade, well, you'd need a lot more than that.
And this video just highlights the actual need or necessity for another asset class or currency against the US dollar, as our politicians are consistently proving to not only be reckless with our future and inflation, whether it's Republican or Democrat, but that it is truly a fiat currency system. And if you study all fiat currencies throughout history, it doesn't matter the politics of the era. At the end of the day, they consistently get printed to zero. And because the institutions are now here and are going to have access to crypto, and banks are also going to be able to bank in terms of onboarding and off ramps with crypto, I believe this has actually elongated the crypto market cycle. In other words, what the typical 4-year cycle looked like might now become 6 to 7 years, which is actually pretty good for Bitcoin, which is why you see that the cycle has elongated, and we're going to show you in this video by Raoul Pal that we have yet to hit the banana zone, or at least what he calls the banana zone, when things go absolutely parabolic. And if that happens with Bitcoin, it's exactly what's going to happen with XRP, and arguably even more so in terms of percentage gains.
It's not a mystery. It is a repeat of the debt cycle. They are rolling the debts. They are doing the same thing each cycle. It's not to do with a halving cycle. Nothing to do with any of that. It's all driven by liquidity cycle and funding of debts. Each phase, we get phase 1 of the banana zone, banana number 1. The corrective zone, banana number 2 comes. Another correction, banana number 3. So this is the banana zone. So that's what happened in 2020, 2021. Off we go. Sorry, that was 2017, which again looks very similar to this one. That was the last one. Here we are now. It can't be clearer to me. I've shown you the macro evidence, the technical evidence, the sentiment evidence. Everything here suggests to me that hold on to your hats. Don't fuck this up. Don't lose control of your tokens. Don't use leverage. Don't get your wallet hacked. Just sit with it. Be careful. Don't get FOMO. Do all of the right things, and we'll go up to the next phase of correction zone. That's going to be harder, because the next one that happens, we'll have a 35% drop, and you'll all say, is it over? And you'll definitely be sure it's over, and everybody on Twitter will tell you it's over, and it won't be over. By our work, we suggest that because of the elongation of the business cycle, because rates were higher for longer, the forward-looking liquidity suggests that, again, probabilistically speaking, without any guarantees, this whole thing goes into Q1, maybe Q2 of 2026, which would align with Trump's, trying to win the midterms as well. So everything's lined up for us. I think it started. So keep the faith, keep building stuff, and let's keep driving Siri forward with all of this. Thank you.
Now, it's important to note that he might be picking and choosing his data, which I agree that the top might come in somewhere in correction phase 2, and we may never see a correction phase 3, or basically the top of a cycle that we think according to this model. As you can see in prior models, the prior all-time high was not only touched over here on the first correction phase, but it hit a new all-time high, or at least the prior all-time high, and that was considered correction phase 1. What he did did was actually move the box from essentially here to here and said, this is correction phase 1. So he might be picking and choosing data, but this also might be based on dates. But at the end of the day, one thing is for certain, this time is truly different. It doesn't mean that it's different in terms of us going to new all-time highs, which I still think is going to happen. It simply means that this might be the all-time high, and we might not get a banana zone in the same manner or degree that we saw over here. So it's important to remain really agnostic and not just look at all of these models, because at the end of the day, I've looked at a million different models and they were always right until they were wrong. Also, before we dive into those indicators, if you haven't already, check out bullrunners.com to join Altcoin Pro University, only $97 a month. And by the way, we are pretty confident we can help you to earn your $97 per month back just using one of the DeFi yield strategies that we teach you step by step how to do. For example, we had one member recently take $1,200 and toss it into one of these DeFi yield strategies and was earning $3.31 per day, which covered the cost of their entire membership. And so everything else was a free ride. And again, here's a 16-minute video from one of our DeFi experts and analysts showing you step by step how to do that. And that's not all you'll be getting, because we have tons of courses and classes that you can take. Now, obviously, I'm not sitting here, taking every single one of these classes and courses, which is why you see them at zero, but I am in there creating them. And so in one of these, for example, the Technical Analysis Essentials, I teach you everything you need to know in order to be proficient and confident on a chart. Everything from trend lines to candlesticks to the psychology to bullish and bearish patterns to all of your common and basic indicators, and even the 4 horsemen of technical analysis. At least that's what I call them, and how they're so valuable and important. And if you learn just this stuff alone, you could actually become a pro. We have a stacked calendar of live calls that we're consistently running, and every Tuesday I host a live call and cover everything that I simply cannot get to on the channel for our university members, where you can ask your questions live, and the list goes on and on and on. So if any or all of that sounds interesting to you, head on over to bullrunners.com to check that out. And also, if for whatever reason within 14 days, if you're not happy or you can't get your yield back for the cost of your membership, then you can go ahead and request a cancellation. But with that said, let's get into these key indicators. All right, I'm going to talk about that indicator that I shared at the beginning of this video. One that is so easily applicable that anyone could use it to kind of be lazy about their approach to the market and still do pretty well and know when the cycle top is. And the actual indicator is called Bitcoin Golden Pi Cycles. So if you go to indicators and type in Bitcoin Golden Pi Cycles, you pull that up, it will look like this. Okay. And so this indicator, and I had to move my mic out of the way, shows you long moving averages, short moving averages. We're not going to explain the deviations, all of this stuff. All we're going to focus on is the signals that it gave us in the past. And by the way, these were not lagging signals. These signals occurred the moment the data actually showed up. So for example, in the bull market of 2021, you can see that the actual Bitcoin cycle top showed you an indicator or an actual label that said here was the top. And look at how close we were to the top then. We came in just slightly higher back in November, but this really was the top. And then when it flashed a bottom, we were at the bottom of a crash over here, and we crashed just a little bit more, I believe, on FTX over here, which was definitely unexpected. But look at how close it called the bottom, within a range of 17,000 down to 15,000, pretty freaking close. And prior cycles, again, we're talking in 2017, it called the exact top and the exact bottom. So it's very much possible and potential that it might look more like this time around. But at the end of the day, look at, we've had 0 flashing signals on a cycle top. And if anything, we're now starting to cross over right here. And again, I'm paying attention to Bitcoin because if Bitcoin is in a healthy market trend, then it's going to leave room for the rest of the crypto market to breathe. And it's going to give investors confidence to deploy their capital from Bitcoin or their gains from Bitcoin into other high performing altcoins like XRP. Now, another indicator that I'm going to pull up is this MACD, but I'm actually going to focus on the weekly time frame, and I'm going to pull the Bitcoin Pi Cycle indicator off. So I don't believe we're at a top, very similar to Raoul Pal. If anything, this was just an elongation of the market cycle. But one thing I really want to focus on is this MACD indicator on a weekly time frame. And as you can see right around here, if I put a line there, is where we actually crossed over. The slow moving average was the orange line. The fast moving average is the blue line. Whenever you get a crossover, the blue below the orange, this is bearish. Whenever you get a crossover blue above orange and above this zero line, this is pretty freaking bullish. And so right here, we had a very strong bull signal through the rally all the way into this range over here, okay, on December of 2024. And as you can see here, we're getting close to flashing another signal. Again, we're above the zero line. We're starting to come back above into positive territory on these bars, and we're about to flip blue above orange. And so if it comes sometime, let's say in May, very similar to what happened here, we could actually have a really strong bullish signal for a very easy play. Because as you can see here, this thing flashed bullish at about $68,000, $69,000. And from that point in time, the market went on and rallied, at least Bitcoin as a large asset, another 60%. In other words, from this period of time, if you were to track from October 14th to January 20th, what happened to XRP? It's actually quite shocking. So Bitcoin was actually a great indicator of what was going to happen to XRP. And as you can see, if you would have invested on October 14th, the price of XRP was about 54 cents, to January 20th, you would have made an extra 520% just using that signal alone. And by the way, I'm showing you the basics here. If you really want to dive in, it's not like I'm token gating anything. It's just these videos would be way too long. The viewership would go down. And so I really want to make sure that I'm showing you and proving to you that this is the basics. I'm showing you something that you can use right now and apply to your crypto trading strategy to actually win in the markets. But still, if you want to learn more and dive more deeply, then yes, join bullrunners.com at Altcoin Pro University. But look at that Bitcoin indicator flashing that signal and what happened for XRP. However, is it going to happen again? And what should you do with XRP? Well, one chart I'm going to look at the weekly time frame on is the XRP v Bitcoin. And so right now, XRP is actually consistently losing in dominance against Bitcoin. Since the top over here on March 3rd, Bitcoin has actually been outperforming XRP, and it's coming right back down to a quote unquote support level. So it's important to be a little cautious with that XRP position because yes, right now Bitcoin is outperforming. And so you can see we are at the support level, but realistically every single time XRP hit that 0.0003 range, and I think it's 4 zeros, right here, even for this little cycle top here and bull trap, it actually came right back down to the point, 0.00001 range. In other words, one XRP is worth that much Bitcoin. Okay. And so it's very much possible, and I'm not saying this is going to happen, that XRP continues to lose in dominance. In other words, Bitcoin can continue to rally without XRP, and this thing would continue dumping because again, we're tracking XRP versus Bitcoin right now. And so this would be a pretty good range of support. If I saw XRP just lag Bitcoin and Bitcoin starts to rally really hard, that's when I actually might want to start accumulating a boatload of XRP, because when XRP pops off, it is a tremendous run. But if that does happen, this thing can continue dumping down. And right now you can see that we are actually in a downtrend on that MACD on a weekly time frame. So yes, it's very much possible that Bitcoin can be the leader in this next rally while XRP chills out. And this would give us new opportunities to either buy lower lows and accumulate more, or just buy current ranges through a potential low and get ready for that next major leg up. Either way, on a weekly time frame, we're seeing some really bullish indicators. We're seeing the price action look pretty strong. We're seeing a lot of support going all the way back on a trend line from September of 2023 to present day with a potential bear trap. And so if the price action continues to look strong this week, which so far we're seeing pretty good support and buying in the current range, then we could see some really strong strong accumulation in other charts. However, I'm not too sure right now is the best time to jump all into XRP. Sometimes it's better to take an approach like dollar cost averaging, because it's very much possible with XRP. And again, XRP is this purple line, and the price action or the candlesticks is Bitcoin. You can see that XRP sometimes when it pumps, it outperforms Bitcoin, but right now it's actually lagging Bitcoin. And so it topped off right over here on April 28th. And since that point in time has been dumping for new lower lows in the same range, where Bitcoin has been leading and pumping for higher lows and higher highs. As you can see right here on May 2nd, Bitcoin put in a new high while XRP was lagging and actually dumping. And so I would like to see XRP break above this range right here in order to put it in a new higher high. But with the price action as it stands, I'm going to remain relatively cautious, because this is looking like a textbook short-term head and shoulders. Again, if I just toss a line right here, you can see that this would be shoulder 1, touch at the neckline, head, shoulder 2 right here, break below the neckline, and now we're just bouncing off prior support. But it's going to be pretty hard for XRP to really make a strong breakout with this type of price action and a lot of overhead resistance at about $2.20 to $2.25. So it remains to be seen what happens with XRP, but with us being in an intermediate term downtrend and going out, maybe zooming out to a daily time frame, you can see that minus the Trump pump and that bull trap, and I know it's a bull trap now, we're very easily confirmed because we failed to hold the range right there. You can see that we had a bull trap right here, another one right here. This seems to be our trend line or our overhead resistance. So even if we come right back into that 220 range, it's easy for me to see it selling off and struggling to break back out. We do need to hold this range of support right here, and I would argue at least, guys, I'm telling you, $2.05. If we come back down to the $2.05 range, things are going to be looking kind of dangerous for XRP in the short term, while Bitcoin could potentially rally and lead really strongly, which would lead the XRP v Bitcoin chart to continue dropping. And so if that happens, again, we might actually get some better prices on XRP to accumulate. Now, where exactly? Well, if we break below 205, it's highly likely we're going back down to at least 180, and if not 150. And again, this is not 100% confirmed. I'm not a fortune teller. I don't know what the future looks like, but I'm preparing for that, and I'm not adding to any risk right here. I'm sitting on my current bag, but I'm not going to add risk. I'm actually saving a lot of capital. I'm sitting on cash on the sidelines to accumulate between 178 to 150 if that occurs, because I think these are going to be really good price ranges to buy and accumulate XRP into that next leg up as Bitcoin continues to rally. So that's it, folks. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to subscribe. Check bullrunners.com out. Go ahead and get that free ebook. Go ahead and enter our XRP giveaway on Bullrunners HQ over at Twitter. Thanks so much for watching the video, and I will see you in the next one. Goodbye.